Hello everyone, we will continue the topic Web Dynpro ABAP and we are covering select options as a part of component usage. And in the previous video, we finished with the first three steps. We firstly created a view container UI element. Yes, you all know, yes, the purpose of this layout element is to display another view, and in our current scenario, we will display the select options. After that, we simply added this particular component WDR select options into our own Web Dynpro component because our topic is itself component usage. It means we are using an existing Web Dynpro component into our own Web Dynpro component. So we added this Web Dynpro component into our own Web Dynpro component. After that, I added this component usage at the view level also. How I added at the view level? I simply went to the properties tab. I clicked onto this button and I added this component usage at the view level also. And once the topic will proceed, you will realize why I'm adding this component usage at the view level. Now we will move on to our fourth step. Fourth step is totally based upon the code. It means we will write the code to display the select options. And where we will write the code, we will write the code in the WDDOINIT method of the view. You all know at what time this particular method triggered. This particular method triggers before displaying a particular view. It means before displaying the view, our logic will trigger. It will create the select option, and on the view, our select options will display. So as a part of step number 4, we will perform these 4 steps, or you can simply understand these 4 are the sub steps of this step number 4, and always you need to perform this set of static steps, and these 4 steps are totally code based. It means we will write the code. So what is the first step? The first step is, so we can simply understand first sub step of step number 4. We need to instantiate the used component WDR select option. We need to instantiate the used component WDR select option. And how we will instantiate? It's very easy. We just need to choose the various respective radio buttons. How we will instantiate the used component WDR select options. I will go to methods. We will write the code in WDDOINIT method, and I will simply go to Web Dynpro code wizard. We already covered so many times. The best part is there's no need to write the code at so many times. You need to simply generate the code using Web Dynpro code wizard. I will go to general. You can see we have so many radio buttons and you will predict very easily. The third radio button is instantiate the used component. Yes, what is our used component in our current scenario? WDR select options. So I'll simply choose this radio button. If I will go to F for help, it will simply show me what is the used component. If I will go to F for help, you can see it is clearly showing our used component. This is what we provided in our Web Dynpro component. If I will go for this, if I will go for OK, now you can see SAP generated the code to instantiate the used component. I will simply put a comment also, instantiate used component WDR select options. Now you will get the clarity. Suppose I'm not adding this used component, I'm not adding the component usage at the view level. Suppose I'm going to properties and I'm removing this. I'm removing from the view level. Suppose if I will go to methods and I want to generate the code for this to instantiate the used component, if I will go to WebDenPro component, WebDenPro code wizard, if I will go to F for help by choosing this radio button, you can see it is clearly saying no component usage exists. So you need to add the component usage at the view level. After that, only you can write the logic into the WDDOINIT method of the view. Now you can realize why I added at the view level. Why I added this component usage at the view level. So I will simply include this is our component usage. Now I will go to methods. So first step is done. We need to instantiate the used component WDR select option. Now the question comes, why we are instantiating this? Suppose if I will go for this particular WebDenPro component, which we are using into our own WebDenPro component. If I will go for this WebDenPro component, now if I will go to component controller of this WebDenPro component, if I will go to methods, you can see we have a method here, init selection screen. We will call this particular method, yes, because you all know whenever we want to display select option parameter, we are displaying on selection screen or input screen. I need to call this particular method. So firstly, what I did, I instantiated the used component WDR select option. Now, how I can call this particular method? How I can call this method of this WebDenPro component? I will simply go to WebDenPro code wizard. Now, it's very easy to understand which particular radio button you need to choose. There is no need of confusion at all. Suppose we have two radio buttons. Method call in current controller, method call in used controller. Now we need to go for which radio button? We need to go for method call in used controller. We are using this WebDenPro component into our own WebDenPro component, and we want to call this particular method. If you go for this radio button, method call in current controller, it means it will show you the method of your current WebDenPro component. We need to go for this radio button because we need to call the method of used component. So I will simply choose this radio button. I will go to F for help. It will show you each and everything. If I will go to F for help, now we need to choose this. Now I will go to method name. I will simply go to F for help. And you will be able to see the method init selection screen. Now, so many people will think at this point of time, this WebDenPro component has so many methods. Then why we are only able to see 4 methods? See, whenever this checkbox is ticked, it means only those methods you can use in another WebDenPro component. Word itself is saying interface. Interface checkbox is ticked. It means only those methods you can use in another WebDenPro component. So we can only use cancel, execute, this init selection screen. We can only use this. So I will simply go for this particular init selection screen. That's why I'm able to see init selection screen. I will simply go for this. We'll go for OK. And you will be able to see SAP generated the code. We'll simply put the declaration at the top. That's always a best practice. I'll just put this at the top. I will put this at the top. I will put this also at the top. And I will put a comment for the second step as well. So our first step done. We instantiated the used component. After that, we simply called the method. Which particular method? Init selection screen. So first step done. We simply done with the second step and we called the method init selection screen. So I'll put the comment. It's very easy to understand, and the best part is always you need to perform this set of static steps. So our second step is done. We firstly instantiated the used component, then we called the method init selection screen. Now on the selection screen, we need to display the select option for the sales order number. Now we will see which particular method we need to call. Now, what is our third step? Third step is we need to firstly create a range table. We will create the range table for sales order number. You all know what is select option. Select option is always a range table. And what is the name of the method? Create range table. If I will go for this SAP generated code, this object is referring to this particular interface. If I will double click onto this interface, if I will go for yes, you can see we have a method here. This, if I will simply scroll down, we have a method here, create range table. After that, we will add. You can see we have a method create range table. Description itself is saying dynamically create range table. So firstly, we will create a range table for sales document number, and then we will simply add it to the selection screen. And it is an instance method. It means whenever we have an instance method, we need to call through object. So how we will call through object? So our two steps done. Now we will move on to third step. What is our third step? I will go for simply pattern. I will go to ABAP object patterns. And I will call the method create range table. What is our instance name? Our instance name is LV underscore R underscore helper underscore class. SAP generated this code. This object is referring to this particular interface. And yes, we have a method in the interface. What is the name? What is the name of the interface? If underscore WD underscore select underscore options. Now we will call the method. What is our method name? Create range table. Create range table. We are creating a range for sales order number. Now you can see we are getting each and everything instance method. So we have hyphen and greater than key. Now we will pass that type, and so many people will understand what that type we need to pass. We all know we need to pass that data element of sales order number. If I will go to VBAK table, we can check. This is our VBAK table. You all know VBELN is of this particular type. Data element has a domain of char 10. So we'll simply use this data element. I will pass. We are creating a range table with this particular type, and it will return the range table. Range table means it will go for low value, high value, multiple selection button. Now I will simply write LT underscore range underscore VBELN. What will be the type of this? LT underscore range underscore VBELN. It will be same as that of RT underscore range table. So how I will do? I will simply double click and check the type. I will go for yes. Now RT range table is type ref to data. So I will simply declare data lt underscore range underscore VBELN type ref to data. So we have done with the third step also. We created the range table by using this particular method. If select option is clear to you, it's very easy. We just need to write the code for the same. So our third step done. Now we will move on to our fourth step. You have selection screen, you have range table. Now you can simply add the selection field. It means we'll simply create the binding between this range table and our field. We will assign this range table to our field. What is our field? Sales document number. So how we will do? We have a method add selection field. If I will go to pattern, if I will go to ABAP object patterns, same instance, same interface. Now we will call the method add selection field. We have a method add selection field, adding the additional field to selection screen. We are adding the field to the selection screen. And you will realize what are the various things we need to pass. What is our ID? What is the name? Yes, you can give ID. Suppose I am saying VBELN. We are adding this field to the selection screen. And what is the range? What is the range? This is your range because we got the range into this internal table. So we'll simply pass this IT underscore result and we will pass. So yes, we added this particular field to the selection screen, and this particular field has this range table. Range table means low value, high value, and multiple selection button. I will simply put this fourth comment. This is our fourth comment, add selection field by passing the range table. Yes, we pass the range table, and which method we called add selection field. We'll simply go for forced. I will save up to this level. So what is the summary of this particular video? In this video, we covered one of the most important step of select option. We performed the fourth step. Fourth step is all about writing the code. And the fourth step has further four sub-steps. So firstly, what we did? We simply instantiated the used component. We have written the logic in WDDOINIT method. Why we have written the code? Because this method calls before displaying the view. So our select option logic will trigger and our select option will display on the view. So we are writing the logic in WDDOINIT method. So firstly, we instantiated the used component. Yes. To instantiate the used component, there is no need to manually write the code. Just go for this Dynpro code wizard button and choose the third radio button. Then I showed you also why I added the component usage at the view level so that we can instantiate this used component. After that, I showed you we need to call this particular method init selection screen of this particular Dynpro component. How you can call? You need to simply choose the radio button. Yes, this particular radio button method call in used control. Yes, we want to call the method of this whatever the component we are using into our own Dynpro component. We do not want to go for current controller. We need to call the methods of used controller. So I simply choose this radio button. Now people think so many methods are there. Why only few methods we are able to use? Because whatever this interface checkbox is ticked, you can only use those methods. Then we generated the code and we have this particular init selection screen method. Now, after that, we called the method create range table. We created the range for the select option. And in the fourth step, we added the field to the selection screen by passing the range table. Now, in the next video, we'll simply go for fifth step. We will display the select option and we'll further go for few more options. So that's it in this video. Thank you.